Brooksaw Antiques here. Today we have this 1938 Corona Standard vintage portable typewriter. I'm going to show you how to use the functions and make sure they all work. And as you can see, it's very beautiful. Sorry I have to touch it, but somebody has to make sure that all the functions work on this thing. Margins are located behind the carriage, and you can move them like this on each side. Just make sure they're in between the paper fingers, which are on the front of the platen, or else you'll get stuck on them. Let's test what we have here. So the paper fingers are up front, and you can adjust them, make sure they're on the edge. And the margins, if they're too close to those, they'll bump them out of the way and get stuck on them. So we're going to move this right margin a little bit closer to the middle. That. Test it. Good to go. This one can be a little bit closer to the edge. Okay. Once you hear the bell, you're at the end of the margin. You hit this line space, gets it back to the beginning, and skips 1 or 2 spaces. Right now we have it on single, but if you want double, you flip that switch back and it skips 2. We're going to keep that on single and finish typing. As you can see, all the keys type nice and none of them skip or stick. I'll type a sentence in red on the next line. Switch from black to red. There's a switch on the right side here. You flip that all the way down. Press the bottom portion of the ribbon. If you have it in the middle, it doesn't print anything at all. It leaves a stencil for copying purposes if you have it all the way up. Press the top portion of the ribbon. So we're going to slide that down for the red print. Excellent machine. So if you look at that print, it just looks so good. This is about as fancy as it gets. Classy, fancy, whatever you want to call it. Take a look at this thing. And like I said, I'm sorry I have to touch my fingers on this thing, but somebody's got to do it. To pull the page out easy, there's a switch on the right side. You flip it forward and it unlocks the rollers underneath the platen, allowing you to pull the page out easier or load thicker paper like carbon copy or cardstock. Make sure you flip that back before you load the next page, or else it won't load correctly. Shift on each side of the shift lock on the left. To clear that, just hit the shift button again. Backspace on the right side. Looks good. We're going to put this color selector back up to the blue, which prints the top portion of the ribbon. This little lever on the left, if you open the hood, all the brand new ribbon is loaded on the left side, so it's pulling to the right. And if you switch that down, it'll pull to the left. If you switch it down again, it pulls to the right. So it's like a, there we go. So on this model, it's very fun to try to, because you just push it down and it switches the side. There we go. So you push it down and then you start typing and then it'll switch. It's got an automatic ribbon reverse, just like a lot of typewriters do. And here's your touch control on the left side of the inner compartment here. The farther up you go, the more tension there is when you hit the keys. The farther down you go, the less tension. You don't have to hit them as hard to get them to print. Margin release is when you get to the end of the margin. You hit the keys, it won't print, but if you hit that margin release, it'll allow you to go all the way to the end or until you get stuck on that right paper finger. Carriage release on each side here. Look at it. It's strong. That's the word I'm looking for. Strong and smooth, very strong. side here. This is a very classy typewriter. I just really like this model. They also call it a curvy because it doesn't have the flat top. There's another exact same model like this, but it's got a flat top, and this is with the curvy. The curvy is more rare than the flat top. And if you pull this knob out, it'll disable the spacing when you get to the end, or it'll just disable the spacing. So if you push it in, you get those clicks. Each one of those clicks is one space. And that's it. Now available on eBay or Etsy. Search Brooksaw Antiques.